All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to season 3 of Black.Queer.Alive. I am Miss Tempest, Mimi Tempest, and here with Shy
You a
P.
teacher?
I used to be a teacher. They used to call me Miss Boykin because that's like my real last name. So I'm kind of used to saying that.
Yeah, you said I miss. I was like, you were a teacher.
I'm here with Shy P. Hi, Shy. How are you?
Hey, I'm all right. I'm doing well.
I to everyone who's listening and watching, I told Shy before I started recording, usually it takes me a while to get in the mix with folks, but something about as soon as I saw you, I just like I don't know, I just felt like this intense feeling of joy. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you. You have
Oh,
a light energy about you. I really appreciate that.
oh, that means a lot. And you know what? It's probably because I broke writer's block recently. Everything's better when I break writer's block.
Ooh, okay, let's get in. Let's fuck it. Let's get into that. What are you writing right now?
I just finished a poem. It's pretty short, but I'm in love with it. And I usually, when I break writer's block, it's because something means enough to me to get around to it because I'm knee deep in my actual occupation. So I have been busy, but I finally got back to poetry and I'm really excited about this one.
Nice, nice. I saw your page on Instagram and I saw your Tumblr. I do like research about people real quick so I know what to talk about. Um and I liked a lot of your pieces. There's an intimacy about you that's very fun, refreshing to read. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I hope like I really try to be as authentic as possible. I had a poetry professor that told me that a poem before anything else has to be honest. So
Mhm.
um I have shout out to her and I have that's why I wrote this poem. I had got into a back and forth with a friend. My family is Catholic, and I am not necessarily practicing, but God and religion is something that comes up in a lot of my poetry. So I just wrote a poem called "And Isn't Christmas the Most Trans Story Ever?" Um,
A point made.
so
All right, let's jump into it, Shy. You spoke a little bit about it, but what's your age? Tell me more of how you're passionate about poetry or anything else you're passionate about, and what motivates you.
I'm 24, turning 25 this month.
Oh, you,
Aquarius season. I'm waiting on it.
you're an Aqua.
I am
Ah, that's
January 30th. Let's go.
oh my goodness. I have a lot of Aquarius energy. That's where we must be like just feeling it.
That's where it is.
Section. Nice.
I am a triple air sign,
Oh,
actually.
what are your placements?
I am an Aquarius with a Gemini moon and a Libra rising.
Oh my goodness, that is a lot of air energy. That's a lot of
It absolutely is. I always say it's balanced out by the fact that I am Pisces Venus. So
wow. That's beautiful. I like that. Mm.
hopefully somebody does. A lot of people run for the hills when I start with I'm a triple air sign.
It's funny because someone I used to date has the same birthday as you, and he was very detached, and I just think the capacity for the air for an air sign just has you have to know that you can detach, and you got to know when you're going to engage, and if you're conscious about that, it becomes very fun, very light, very playful. It's like little eddies of wind just moving about in the sky, but
I like that.
yeah.
I like that a lot actually. And thank you because I think through a lot of because I think that I have a lot of Aquarius energy, Aquarius, but I think that it's about intention, like you said. It's about making sure that when I detach, and it's also about communication. It's like when I detach, I gotta be like, hey, I'm going through it, or hey, I'm busy with work, or I'm processing something. I will get back to you when I can. Just know it's all love. And so I try to do that. You asked me what I'm passionate about, and one is communication. And I'm still working on that one, but I am passionate about it. And my kids, you were a teacher. I work in a school, and on the side, I am an affinity group leader for a bunch of Black high school students. So
What is affinity group? What is that?
So our affinity group is called Black Excellence. And I basically work with a bunch of high school students in our school to make them feel seen, validated. It's based on an identifier. Our identifier is this is our Black student affinity group. So students who self-identify as Black come into the space, bring their authentic selves. I bring my authentic self. We have 3 affinity group leaders. One of them left. She was an absolute delight to work with and a dream of a mentor. And I only hope that I can give these kids as much as she did.
Oh,
So
that is beautiful. What is your experience in working with youth? How do they motivate you, or how do they inspire you?
can I show you a video? I
Uh,
don't know how I don't know how well it'll translate, but you asked how they motivate me, and I think I've watched this video maybe a million times um, because these kids, it's hard to say like how they motivate me. I think they make my job worth going to. Like they are important to me because they care so much about generally everything. And I love that about them. And they make me care more. So this was I didn't tell them when my birthday was last year, but my coworker did, and I didn't know she did that. But then it's my birthday.
They're screaming. Oh, it froze. Oh, there it goes.
Oh no.
Oh, I can see it. Oh my goodness. Just on the table, like,
So
yes.
on the tables yelling. I had coworkers passing by looking like, and I was like, that's why there's a point in the video where I have to be like, it's my birthday. I'm sorry. Like they out here kids screaming. They're like, is something wrong? But I think they motivate me. They come in with such authenticity, with such passion. They care for each other. I've seen some of these kids go through it, and then I've seen other kids have their back, no question, nothing. Like they're not even friends like that. But it's just the amount of, so I run it like a family. I always tell them that. I said, we run this like a family. Every day is like a cookout. You always got them family members that you don't really love, like but you love.
Yeah,
You ride for them. Like you have ones you're closer to, you have ones you're a little more distant from them, but when they need you, you have their back, and when you need them, they have your back. And that's how we run this, because I tell them all the time, I'm like, nobody knows what you're going through like the rest of the people in this room. So like y'all are the only people who could take care of each other in that way. Your parents, or even me, like I don't know what you're going through in your classrooms and your free time and things like that. Like my job is to listen, but it's up to y'all. Y'all know what the other person's going through. Like take care of each other. At least take the time to think about what you're doing. Like I go with a harm reduction mentality. I'm like, what's the least amount of damage that we can get out of this scenario? And I ask them to do the same thing. I'm like, y'all care about each other. I know that. Y'all wouldn't show up every day if you didn't. Just remember that. So, and I think they remind me to stick to that. I lived a life like before I got that job, I was like really down I didn't graduate on time from college, like from undergrad.
Yeah, same,
And I
same.
was right. I was like, I was
Like
a
same
mess.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I got the job, and I had my old mentor came up to me and was like, I think you'd be really good affinity group leader. And I was like, I don't have anything to give these kids.
Mm.
So,
But you have your
um,
experience. You have your authenticity. Yeah.
yeah. And she told me that, and she was like, how about you just come to a meeting
Mm,
and just feel it out. And I came through, and I was like, I might not have anything to give to these kids, but these kids have so much to give to me.
mm,
Um, and they have so much love, and they have so much passion, and they're doing things. And I graduated from that high school. And so to get to see them doing things, having more than we did, and still being like, this is not enough, is really empowering. And it reminds me that what I do is about visibility. So when my kids feel seen, I had a kid come up to me and she was like, she made this high school decision, classic high school decision, just like decided to do it, like talk to somebody or something like that. Friends were upset about it. And she came up to me and she said, I know you think I'm a bad person. I said, I'm going to be honest with you. On a
mm.
scale of 1 to the worst thing I have ever done, this is about a 3.
Ah!
She said, really? And I was like, yeah, come on, this is high school. Like,
Yeah, you gonna be all
this,
right.
right? Like, this, just do you. I would ask you, if there's one thing I'll ask of you, is that when you enter situations like this, please consider harm reduction.
Mm,
Like, that's not to say you can't do what you want to do, but be a better communicator about what you want to do, about your intent, about, like, you want this friendship, but you also want this other thing. And that's okay. It's okay to want both of them, but just let the people involved know so that everybody can be making informed decisions.
mhm. Most definitely. I think working with kids, youth is a demonstration or a lesson in love, and it's like a deeper. It transcends artificial love. It's like I have to, not I have to, but I do this because I love you. Like, and I want to
Yeah.
see you flourish as a human.
Yeah, it's like, and it's also a practice of forgiveness. Like, I think I'm a little hard on myself, but in order to get these kids to forgive themselves, I have to demonstrate that. Like, I start with telling them, I'd never ask you to do anything I'm not willing to do. If we're doing icebreakers, I'll be the first to share something personal. If
Mhm.
we're talking about breakups, and that's the subject for this week, I'll be the first to tell you about a breakup that I had a hard time getting through. If we're talking about hard parents
Yeah.
and like complicated parent relationships, I'll be the first to share. I'm never going to invite you into a space I haven't stepped into first. So I think, yeah, like you said, it's definitely an act of love, because like kids are like, they'll love you. Like, they will really love you.
They will, without question. If they know that you are pretty consistent and that you care, and that you show up when you're supposed to and you do exactly what you say, yeah, kids will like. It's not even a question for them. I used to teach middle school, which was interesting and fun. But then I moved to Oakland, and the second grade class just landed on my lap. I had no intention.
Second grade.
I had no intentions of teaching that class, and every teacher before them kept on giving up. And I had worked with them for so long at a point, and I told the principal, look, I'll work with this class, and it was the best decision one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I mean, second graders, 7-year olds are like pure magic, so amazing. And it just reminded me and like refreshed for me, like kids have that capacity, like you said, to teach you or to give love to you, and when you least expect it, it just
Yeah.
comes into your life.
Yeah, and I think I needed it. I was vulnerable, I was feeling unworthy, and I needed it. And they picked me up. I always say that. I'm always like, you know, like they took me in, like they mentored me, like, because they had to accept me as an affinity group leader, and they had two already, like they didn't need a third one, but they accepted me. And they still do, like they'll still, I had one update me, sent me a random email, and I've been neck deep in work, so I haven't been able to be in touch with them like I want to. But I had one email me to tell me he got a haircut. And he's saying his head has been so cold, and he's got to wear a hat to sleep or he'll get a cold. And like, it's just the updates. It's the fact that he cared enough to be like, yo, Shy, I know you would care that I got this haircut.
Check
And
it
it's
out.
that utmost faith. Yeah, it's that like, yo, it's that faith that's like, yo, I haven't heard from you in a month because you've been working and I've been doing classes, but I know that you would care that I did a big chop. And he like, it's just, I think that motivates me to be a better leader, to be a better person, to practice what I preach, to remind them and to expand what I try to teach them. Like, the reason I run it like a family is because I want them to know what that kind of love and support feels like. Because we all have complicated families and pasts, and so, and I want them to know what it looks like to choose the people who love them, and to love those people. And then it means that when one of the members, or like when I'm doing something and it's like, oh, okay, this hurts me, I'm like, okay, if it hurts you, then we have to talk about it. Because like like that's not how love works. Like love doesn't hurt in that way. So we got to talk about it. We got to work around this. We got to figure out how to communicate it. We have to do better. We have to like think about each other more. And I remind them that, yo, like love looks like a lot of different things, but it doesn't hurt. And if it does, you have to talk about it. It
Yeah.
has, something has to change. And so I think I do that. I try in my poetry because a lot of my poems are about love. But I also try with my kids, and so that motivates me.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for that. I'm gonna keep going with the questions. What are your pronouns?
They, them.
Hey,
They, them are my pronouns. Finally settled into them
okay.
for a few years now. So yeah, they, them.
How long? So you're non-binary. How
I am.
how long has how you said you finally settled into them? What? How long has that transition took? Is that a yeah?
Um,
Taken took. You know.
um, I know what you mean. It's, um, I think I finally leaned into it my sophomore year of undergrad. Like I started figuring it out because I actually, my junior year, I went to London, and
Beautiful.
was I am not I don't generally travel like that. I'm always pretty busy. So I didn't, it was my first time in a while being away from home in that way. And then to have to adjust, but to also have to, like, there were certain things that I was rebelling against. Like, there's certain things that I finally had the freedom to explore. And so I thought about that. I was like, man, like, I cried about it. I contacted a bunch of friends about it. I was like, and I don't know what to do. Like, I might start using different pronouns. Like, I don't, this she her thing isn't working for me. I don't, this isn't, and to be, if I'm being honest with myself, it hasn't been working for a while now.
Mm.
I was like, I can do it for like professional things, or I can do it for like if I have to, or with family, like old school family, but I can't do it in my personal life. Like I can't do it in my day to day.
So even in a professional setting, you still take on the she her pronouns?
I do with parents. So I work with a lot of parents. And I'm parents, people act like children don't understand things, but I find
Sure do.
that they sure do. But parents are a little trickier.
Mhm.
And I can only introduce them to one thing at a time. So I'm not about to start introducing them to like non-binary beings. That's just I I just it's a lot. Everybody in my office though knows that I use they them. And so I don't use any honorifics generally. I just go by Shy.
Okay.
My students know me as Shy also. Like they know no miss, no mister, um, just Shy.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's powerful. And
Yeah.
also that makes sense because it's like you're like they them and then you sitting there for like 30 minutes trying to explain. Like, all right, just call me Shy. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually my kids got it though. Like and my kids will correct each other. Or like if they have to call me, they call me Miss Paris, but it's MX.
Mhm.
If and they only do that in front of parents.
Okay.
Like I tell them, listen, your parents might not feel comfortable and I'm gonna be honest, I don't want your parents thinking we're cool enough for them to call me Shy. Um because parents who want to be cool with people ask favors and I can't do them.
Mm.
I was like, but you can call me Miss Paris. It'll make your parents comfortable. Um, and they know it's MX, but they all call me Shy, and I'm cool with that. That's my policy generally.
That's powerful that you have that rapport and that streamline of confirmation with everybody, like every different person in that professional setting. That's comfortable for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and we are all doing our best. I think it's I know for a fact I'm the only person who's non-binary in my office, and so I know they're doing their best. Like like they might slip up, but I also have to give them credit because I know within my first month I was setting up um I was setting up like my username and password on our database. And my boss, it was just me and one of my bosses, and she stopped and she said, I never asked you, what pronouns do you use? And I was like, man, where is, and it was a quick moment where I had to be like, okay, am I going to be honest? Because I've never had to do this in a professional setting.
Mhm.
So am I going to be honest? Or am I going to do what's like safe and comfortable? And I was like, you know what? What's safe won't be comfortable. So I was
Mm.
like, I use they them. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry, because I've been assuming for like the last 2 weeks, and that's on me. I'm really sorry about that. It won't happen again, and it hasn't.
Wow.
Like she, yeah,
See, hearing a story like that affirms that folks are transitioning into being more conscious and willing to change their worldviews or how they interact with queer folks. That's powerful.
yeah.
That's,
Yeah, it actually was something that stuck with me for a really long time because she like she's like this white woman. She's like, cis, heterosexual.
Mhm.
She's just, like, for her it's just a matter of decency, like, and I appreciate that because she doesn't make it a big deal. We never talked about it again.
Mhm.
Then when she heard people calling me Shy, she was like, do you prefer Shy? And I was like, actually, professionally, I'll go by whatever. But if anyone's talking directly to me as a person, I prefer Shy. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. I
Yeah.
like that.
So I've been lucky in that way. Yeah.
How do you sexually identify?
Queer.
Queer. Yeah.
Queer. Yeah. I saw this post that was like queer is and fuck you. And I like sorry about that. But um but like that kind of queerness isn't like queer is in I shouldn't have to put a label on this,
Mm.
but I am also not distinct. I'm distinctly not interested in cis men.
Ah, I see.
That is so queer is in that for me. Like most other, like pretty much anyone else, fair game. Cis men
Got it.
just aren't.
Got it. Where do you find home?
Oh man, in a good book, in
Ooh.
a In a good book, yeah. The last place I found home was either with my affinity group, um, because that's home to me. Like even if it's on Zoom, like I've once been on Zoom with them for like 3 hours, like just talking about TV shows we've watched and giving recommendations, um, and getting recommendations. But otherwise, in a good book, in a good poetry book, or in the New Eurekan.
The New Eurekan. Why have I?
Poet Cafe.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
I've heard of that recently. Didn't I can't I feel like I'm gonna butcher his name. Didn't the founder recently pass? Yeah.
yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Oh man, he was an icon.
Mm,
Um, and he made a home for a lot of people, including me. It's one of the first places I started performing publicly.
nice.
Um, so that place means a lot to me, and they know me enough to like the MC for slams, like a bunch of the lower level slams knows me well enough to see me at the door and be like, "Oh, it's Shy."
Wow.
So that place is home. A good poetry book is also home. Has to be written by an author of color, actually. That is a very specific, like, but so the last one I read was Finna by Nate Marshall, and that was home.
I know of Marshall's work, but I haven't read that project or that book. I'm gonna have to cop that.
Oh, yes, please read that book. I started out in public school and went to private school.
Mhm.
Um, and I think sometimes there's that feeling of every once in a while I'll wake up and be like, this isn't where I want to be. Like every once in a while I have a really jarring experience where I'm like, I'm really a public school kid at heart. Like this is this is a lot. Like, I feel like this right here is a lot. Like this for me, loyalty is simple. It's public school simple. Like like these this like a lot of these things are private school complex, and I am public school simple in that way. Like things that you either loyal or you're not. I don't snitch. I mind my business.
Right.
Like so I think about that a lot. Um and I think Nate Marshall grapples with that and grapples with being from some places from Chicago. And so being from a place and leaving that place and coming back to it
Mhm.
and having people think that because you've left it's a like you've shed it,
Yeah.
um which just isn't the case. Like I work in private school, but I always tell anyone who asks that I went to public school first because I let them know that public school is what made me and private school kind of like molded after that.
Mhm.
But those fundamental years I had in public school, and I think I'm much better for it. And I think he grapples with that in a really beautiful way. So his poem in that called Finna is about the way in which Finna is filled with possibility, um, and how he tried to shed it in like with people who told him like, why would you use a word that like isn't a real word, and then realize that Finna is his. It's like his to claim and his to use and his to like build identity around. And
Yeah.
so it was exactly what I needed in that moment.
That's powerful. I'm gonna have to check that out. Most definitely.
Please do. I've been plugging it to anybody who listen.
Okay, okay. Mm, what are you searching for?
Oh, you got some heavy hitters.
Yeah. Did you
What am
did
I?
you questions?
I did.
Okay,
I
okay.
did glance over them. I did glance over them. I
Okay.
did. But I also tried not to focus. I'm the kind of person who would try to answer them beforehand, and
Mhm.
I like the authenticity of having the answer in this moment.
I love that approach because I find that there's no wrong or right to any of this, right? I just want to see, I'm very just interested and curious, like how people respond to the questions. I want a multiplicity, but I find that the people uh the people that come prepared, there's a stiffness to them, and I have to like break them
Gotta
out of
pull a
it.
little.
Yeah, yeah. But I appreciate you for that approach. I think it's really cool.
You asked me, what am I searching for?
Mhm.
Purpose,
Mm,
um, and love, in all different kinds of love. I love, period. Inspiration, um, hope,
mm,
and the ability to be validated and to validate.
mm,
Um,
mhm,
I I always write my poetry, and I always say my poetry is about being seen, but it's also about having someone read it and feel seen.
mm.
Um, and so that is something I'm always searching for, ways to connect.
Yeah, speaking to like a nuance to your own voice, but also a universal experience that we
Yeah,
can all kind of tap into at the same time. That's
yeah.
beautiful. Is there anyone that you read or saw or heard growing up that you feel connected to? Or it doesn't have to be growing up either. It could just be generally.
There's a poet called Shihan. Uh,
I've heard of that name. Mhm.
he's really cool. He has this love poem. Um, and he has this, and I've never forgotten it. It's like one of the first Def Jam poetry sessions I've ever watched. And he's like, I want a you thinking of me, thinking of you, thinking of me kind of love.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, it's just that like, he's like, I want a kind of love that make me have to change my phone plan. I
Ooh.
love like it's that like so I think about that all the time because what he's looking for is so peaceful and it's so like people want something large and all encompassing, but what he's looking for is something so beautifully simple.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so I think about that a lot. Um, I also think about Toni Morrison a lot
Most definitely.
because Toni Morrison didn't take shit from anybody.
Most
Like,
graceful way too.
yeah, she was not here for anybody disrespecting her in the most professional and profound way. And I aim to be that professional, that confident,
Yes.
and that brilliant to be able to create something that one lasts for that long and two um that is so human. And I think she does that brilliantly, or she did that brilliantly.
Most definitely. Now since we're kind of on it, how do you experience love?
I like that a lot. Love for me is something that's all encompassing. It's like I've had terrible luck with it, I'm gonna be honest, but
Same.
I had terrible luck, but that's not to say like I have experienced it. Like someone I'm really good friends with, I dated for 2 years. Um, and they are someone that like really helped me understand how I experience love. And love for me is a lot of forgiveness. It's a lot of forgiveness and commitment to mutual growth. So I think I know I'm not perfect. And I start off everything by saying that, but it's the trust that you know my heart. And so if I screw up, to be like, but I know you care, and this was unacceptable because I needed you. Like I need accountability, trust, um, and commitment to mutual growth. And so, and that's in any kind of love. Like I do that with my affinity group. I do that in my relationships. I do that in my friendships. I do that with my family. Um, so yeah,
Wow. Hmm. I'm just taking that in. It feels on time. Like I needed to hear that, like on my own personal level. Um, when do you feel safe?
When do I feel safe? Um, I feel safe when I know that nobody is gonna ask me something that is gonna make me uncomfortable.
Mm,
Um, so and like that's not the like uncomfortable like you ask me something and I have to think about it, or you ask me something and I have to share something personal. That's a different kind of discomfort. But like no one's gonna ask me, actually, no one's gonna ask me something that threatens my integrity
mm,
with
mm.
myself or to other people, whether it's like someone who doesn't understand physical boundaries, because that makes me unsafe. I think that's the easiest one. If like I initiate physical and like intimacy, because I have a really complex history with physical interaction, and knowing that there are no expectations to how this will go makes me feel safe.
Wow. It seems very like a very specific response to that question. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Um,
I've been thinking a lot about that lately too, just the idea of safety. Um, most interesting answer that I got that I feel connected to is by myself. And it's safety for me is always a power dynamic, like a
yeah.
it's a dance of power. And if one person either doesn't know or doesn't care how their presence impedes upon another, then it, you know, something about that just mm, it doesn't feel right. So by myself is usually my answer to that. But then I also I need humans.
I do. I crave community. I always make joke. I always say I'm a pack animal at heart. Like I crave connection. I do prefer one-on-ones.
Mm,
Um, though I prefer one-on-ones. There's an intimacy to it. That and a trust like that I think is really beautiful. Whereas larger groups, it's easy to be overwhelmed. There are a lot of different dynamics at play besides just connections. But one-on-ones for me are safest.
yeah, that's beautiful. Um, all right, we gonna pivot to a memory. If you have, if you can
A memory.
memory, tell me the first time you realized you were Black.
Oh, you got me. You got me because it wasn't in public school. Like in public school, it wasn't that deep. And there are a couple of times, um, I gotta say, there are two distinct ones.
Yeah.
I was in, I think I was in, I was in prep for prep, and shout out to them because they really had my back. And then I went to private school, and there was a point at which I went on an 8-day trip at my private school, and I needed hair products, and didn't have them, and there was just this like fundamental disconnect,
Oh,
which it sounds like really small and silly, but it made me not feel beautiful, um, and that was really hard for me. I was an eighth grader, so and I didn't have the words for it. um, but later on in that week, I got to go to my community center, which shout out to my community center,
mm-hmm.
the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, because I was surrounded by people who look like me. And to get that, it's an experience I needed after going on that 8-day trip. And then the other one is in college, we had we had this incident on campus where a football player was doing a project
Mm.
and had a glue gun for the project. Somebody called campus security, school shooter,
Oh my God.
lockdown. Nobody has any information. Nobody knows what it is. I'm stuck at home, terrified. They're giving this random description. And then I find out the next morning, like I find out at like 3 what actually happened, 3 a.m. Been locked down most of the day, terrified, most of the evening. Called my mom, uh, told her what was happening, panicking. Um, I never had to do something like that. And so that was my junior year. And to be like, to know the football player that I was like, if they're looking for somebody like him, we got the same build and haircut. Like,
Damn.
they brought tanks. Like,
Wow. For a glue gun?
for a glue gun. It was blue with a yellow trigger for a glue gun. And I have not felt, there are very few times where I felt more Black um, than that moment and the worst kind is like, yeah.
Mm, that is so intense. God.
Yeah. I never forgot it. Mm.
Yeah, that's a psychological level of an anxiety inducing trauma that you can't, that shit you don't shake. The whole state like came down for that specific.
I was like, because I know this guy. First of all, they're looking for somebody 6 feet, and that guy, I'm gonna be honest with you, was like 5'9". We're like 6'3". I was like, I was a trainer for that football team.
Mm,
I know that man. He is 5'9". Like, so that, I think, that's not to say those are the only times I felt Black, but I think that was the first time that I had to be so violently confronted with it.
mhm.
Because there are classroom discussions about slavery and things like that, and you get desensitized to all of those. But I think that's the moment.
The visceral, the reactionary to Blackness as criminal.
Yeah, and it was the first time that I had experienced it, and that's a privilege of mine. But yeah,
Yeah. When's the first time you realized you were queer?
in public school, pretty early actually. The first time I admitted it to myself, much later than that. But the first time I had a feeling,
Mhm.
um, elementary school. So
Do you
yeah,
remember
pretty
what that
early on.
memory was or what the that experience was?
I had a huge crush on one of my student teachers, actually. I had
Mhm.
a teacher's aide that I was like obsessed with in the most juvenile way possible.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't trying to, like, but anytime she spoke to me, I was like, wow, this made my day. It's like, I don't know what, if I thought I was having a bad day, but she spoke to me, problem solved. Like, and so I think that was the point at which I knew. I was like, oh, I like notice, because I can tell when someone is beautiful. I can't really tell when these guys are handsome. It really doesn't.
Mm,
I was
wow.
like, but know, I know when somebody's beautiful.
Mm,
And so that, I think, that happened pretty early.
wow. That's interesting. Okay, okay. Uh, if you could talk to your 12-year-old self, what would you tell them?
12 years old. That's like sixth grade? Fifth, sixth?
Yeah, sixth,
Six.
yeah, going into the seventh.
Okay, so
in that area?
I think I would let them know like that it's okay to be non-binary. I think I fought myself on that for so long because I knew before I realized how, like before I gave Black weight or queer weight, I definitely realized that I was non-binary. I
Mhm.
just didn't have the language for it. And
Mhm.
so to acknowledge that part of me would have saved me a lot of time and hardship. But also would have saved me a lot of like thinking that there was something wrong or like I had to be something or even that I had to look away or act away or like I had to identify as like more this or more that or just to know that it was okay. um I think that would have, and also to know that I would be someone that I'm proud of.
Ooh. Mhm.
Because I think telling a kid that you're proud of them changes their whole life.
Yeah,
Like telling a kid that and meaning it changes their whole life.
most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah, because I think at that age, there's just so much happening, like hormonally, socially, a lot of stuff could be happening in the family. And you for a long time, you don't know like what the hell, how you're gonna turn out.
Yeah,
Especially
like
queer,
you say, especially what?
especially if you're queer and you
Yeah.
age, like damn, I'm gonna be like this forever. It feels no, I feel like that's the wrong word. It feels like an entrapment almost that you don't ever know if you're gonna break out of. Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think I find even with my high school kids, like some of them, like you see them blossom when you tell them you're proud of them.
Mm.
Like you see them. I had somebody during the college process who was like, what if I don't get into my dream school? And I was like, then you get into, I said, then I'll give you the advice that I heard but didn't actually listen to, which is wherever you go, find your people, make a community,
Mm.
and go from there.
Mm.
Make it into a home. Um, and I think if I had told my sixth grade self, wherever you go, make that place a home, um, that would have been really helpful. It's like find your people, make that place a home. Stop fighting, kicking, and screaming. There will always be people who care about you. Find those people
Yeah,
and stick with those people.
that's powerful. Uh, if you were to get a message from your 60-year-old self, what would you want to hear from them?
We did it.
Yeah.
We did it, Joe. We did it. And they called me and they were like, we did it, Shy. We did it.
Uh,
Like on some real, like, hit me with that Kamala Harris. Like, hit me with that. Like, hit me with that. We did it. Like, I need some of that. They don't even have to be specific. Like, just to know we did it. I'm like, okay. Like, I wouldn't tell me that unless like it was a big thing, like
mm-hmm.
whatever it is, getting published or whatever it is, like really making a difference in kids' lives or whatever it is, we did it. That's all I need to hear.
Ah, that's powerful. So simple, but so beautiful and powerful. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, I have two more questions.
I'm
Uh,
ready.
yes. If you could change your identity, would you? And I've extended this question to you can change your form. Like if you want to be a hummingbird or a tree or a nebula or a phoenix, what would that be?
Um, I don't know. I think I am so many in betweens
Ooh, okay.
that and so a bridge to so many things and so many different identities and people and cultures and places that I don't think I would change that, because I think that allows me to do what I do and be who I am. And I think there's a certain importance in that. Like, I wouldn't love the way I do, I wouldn't care the way I do if I wasn't in this form, if I wasn't in this life. So I think the most impact that I could do and that I can do is in this form. But I really love wolves.
Okay.
So if I could choose to shift a form, like, and shift back, I was Team Jacob and Twilight happened. Like, I would choose that. But I think this form that I have is the one that I'm glad to be carrying out my life in.
Got you. My last question, my dear. Is there anything else that I may have not asked that you really want to touch upon in this moment?
Yeah, actually. I think when you mentioned that I seemed excited, like there was this kind of like pleasant energy, and I guess I would actually like to thank you, because I've never I would have loved, you asked me what I would have told my 6th grade self, or like my 12-year-old self, but I think my 12-year-old self would have loved to see something like this. Like, to get that opportunity to see a place that I could exist. And so shout out to you for like building that universe, for bringing that universe to the forefront, because I think that a lot of people need to see it. I know a lot of people who are figuring themselves out, and honestly, that's a whole life journey. But to at least know that there are possibilities, and those possibilities are relatively endless, and to know that somebody cares enough to bring those possibilities in an accessible way, I think that's important. So thank you.
Thank you. Wow. I feel touched. I felt honored right now. Like, whoa. I was talking to my friend William today, and I spoke with this magnificent non-binary person from London, and they just had this, everyone's story is so amazing to me, but they had this story, and I was like, whoa, like my mind blew, like my mind is blowing right now with you, and even with what's, and I called my friend after the first interview, and I just said, like, William, this work feels, it feels like life work. It feels like life work. Um, I have this vision, and I don't know if it'll ever come true, but it's here in my mind that 100, I'm building this archive at this point, and 100 years from now, when people who look like me and people who look like you and people who live like us will be able to access this archive and go, hey, they did it, so I can do it. So that's what this work feels like, and I appreciate you for coming on this journey with me.
Thank you for inviting me onto it. And I'm gonna ask you a favor.
Okay.
If I could share a poem.
Yes, I actually wanted you to share one early, but I was like, okay, don't ask too quick, because we gotta do this. But please share as much as you'd like. I'm here for all of it.
Don't say as much as you like. Not as much as you like. Don't set yourself up like that. But I will say, I always offer anybody who hears me perform poetry the opportunity to tell me the mood that they're in and if they'd like me to match it. So if they're like, I want a love poem, you can hear that. If you're like, I want a poem about queerness or a poem about transness or a poem about, so what are you in the mood for?
Okay, I because you spoke so beautifully about love, I would love a love poem. And because I feel like just this excessive amount of joy with you, something with joy.
Perfect. So I've got a happy love poem.
Yes. Okay, I'm here for it.
I could do that. I have a poem. I have a poem. Let's see. I do have the poem for this, and it is. Let's see if I can pull it out in time. Let's see. Here it is. A New Yorker writes a love poem.
Okay.
I read a poem and I liked the format. It was experimental and I love experiments, which is why I once took a science class where all we did were labs. It's also why I dated guys. I always feel like one of the guys, except I don't have that blind confidence bordering on sheer recklessness, like when my barber had the audacity to hit on me after he gave me this gay ass haircut. I always want to say something swoon worthy, but I end up just being nervous and nervously polite. So here's everything I wanted to say to you that got bottled up between a nodded hello and an immediately averted eye contact like a middle school crush. So, excuse me, miss, you look like a gas station rainbow. You look like the only thing that can make me disregard my motion sickness, just hoping I got a glimpse of you at a pit stop. Excuse me, ma'am. Your voice reminds me of Showtime. I pretend I'm doing something else, but I'm too hooked to keep my eyes off of you for long enough to sell it. If we went to the movies and you were hungry, I would buy you something at the movie theater full price if you didn't like all of the options I had already snuck in my backpack. I have finally realized why Flo Rida wrote the song about the shorty with the apple bottom jeans and the boots with the fur. You are wearing what damn well might be 14 different shades of the same color. And I am tempted to write a sonnet about it. I would step back out of the turnstile just to get the signal to tell you, no, I love you more, even with a fair hike. Running into you has felt like finding a Metro card that still has $20 on it. I'm content if you're never mine, but I can't wait to tell my friends about you. I would stop eating bagels for you. Deadass. You remind me that even though I can't always see them, the city has stars too. I've never seen a light so bright. You make me feel like wishing. I would crease my sneakers if you drop something. I would walk from one side of Times Square to the other on a sunny Saturday afternoon just to get to you. You're so fine, I wouldn't even care if you were a Patriots fan.
Yes.
If you walked slow, I would slow down and keep pace with no complaints and no loss of enthusiasm.
That's so sweet.
Hi. I'd just like to say my name is Shy, and running into you gave me the same feeling of catching the bus to the train with no wait time. This feels like universal interference. And if I didn't know any better, I would say that this is fate.
Shy. I feel like I'm blushing. I feel like you read that just for me. Let me stop.
Hey, I did. It's the one you wanted. I read
I,
it just for you.
I needed to hear that. Thank you so much.
Of
Thank you.
course.
All right, I'm gonna stop our interview right here.
Thank you so much for this incredible experience.